So, hi and welcome. I'm Steen, and I'm going to be talking about being predictable, and it's basically a question of a shift we see in the analytics market. Now, a lot of the things that have been going on has really been focused around traditional data, but now we see there's a shift going on actually trying to do something with the data, and I'm going to get back to that. I'm a senior partner at an agency in Copenhagen. We're hyper-nerds. We have our most famous employee is Mark Edmondson. You know him, or some of you know him. He's our advocate, Google development expert and stuff. But we are 12 analysts, I think, working on the team, covering all different types of shit. So we moved into the machine learning and trying to activate the data this way, and it's going to be part of that I'm going to be trying to talk today. Because in reality, what we've been doing in analytics has been focusing a lot on this, the historical facts. But in reality, so what do your Google Analytics normal report tell you? It tells you how did last month go. And it's the same for Adobe, so we're looking at historical facts, right? But in reality, what people are making decisions about, it's the stuff over here. They're making decisions about the future. So in reality, by being able to start thinking about the future in our data and actually going to the next level with the data, we can begin telling much more interesting and much more relevant stories for people, right? Because it's going to be something management makes decisions about the future, not about the past. So if we can give them better information about the future, then they will be able to make better decisions. So this is kind of the core in this presentation. So part of it is going to be about the analytics thing, but we're also going to, I'm also going to cover what I call the flip side of the coin. Because there's another story to this in relation to what we can do by using machine learning and you activating on our analytics data, but I'll get back to that. So, have you guys ever tried to predict the future? Yeah. And you actually started earlier than you think, right? Because have any of you guys tried to get this done? Have you done hand readings? Have you, all this stuff, we really want to know about the future. And this is both on a personal level and in reality also on a business level. The future is a really interesting place to know things about. So when we look at the future, why are we interested in the future? So in reality, I think it's because of this. It's basically all our own fault, or your own fault. It's the right and the left side thinking of the brain, or the fast and the slow thinking in the terms. So normally when you go through a daily life, honestly, I'm really predictable. I get up at a certain time, I do have a really tight morning routine, then I go the same way to work. I do things in a specific way, I take the same route home. I'm doing stuff and doing the day, I cover the same things in the same way. And it's because our brain has a tendency to be lazy, right? And because our brain is lazy, we become really predictable. So if you know what way I'm taking home every day, that's not going to change. You can actually, by using the data that I provide for a limited amount of time, you can actually go and start predicting me, right? And then the challenge is saying, okay, so maybe I should try to break the patterns. Maybe I should take more active choices. Maybe I should change things. So I'm going to do a little improvised wager here. So if I say I'm ready to give you a £5 wager that you cannot predict what is behind the question mark, who would be willing to take that wager? Now you see it, yeah. All the other guys, you can see your brain, the moment you saw this, you're looking for patterns, right? So most of you already said, okay, I can see this makes sense. I'm pretty confident that I know what is behind the question mark, but since he's a bastard, he's probably going to trick me, so I'm not going to raise my finger, right? This is probably the aspect. If it was just in any given online quiz and you had to choose one, which one would you have chosen? D, yeah, right. So D is the one that makes sense in the sense that these have a pattern. So all you guys who are willing to do the wager, what if I tell you I'm throwing that one out there? Now, the main point of this is actually saying that our brain is lazy. Even when we stop and think about things, we're still lazy, because if that one is out there, then what is behind the question mark? Basically, everything could be behind the question mark, because we try to think linear. We try to find a pattern in this, and we resolve to our brain is lazy, so we resolve to the shortest possible way. We try to find the logical next step. And right now I just fucked up your brains because there is no logical next step, right? And that's kind of why we have sometimes a problem with analytics data. Because we have too much data, and when we look at it, we don't have enough time, so we very often do linear thinking and we come to too quick conclusions, right? And in reality, so quick show of hands, you don't have to show. How many thinks the world is a complex place? Yeah. So why do you think your data is simple? Right? So that's kind of the thing that we're pulling. We're taking something that we all know is complex, and then we try to read it in a simple way. And this is kind of the challenge, because we get more and more data, right? So why do we think we can find patterns in transportation, or geography, or culture, or anything else just using our mind when it's complex? And when we try to combine this, it even gets even more complex and more difficult to tackle, right? So do the metrologists, are they sitting there thinking, I'm looking out, well, I can see clouds, it's probably going to rain tomorrow? No, they're going to be using data, and they're not just going to be thinking about it, say, okay, I can see the wind is coming from the UK, yeah, probably blowing that direction, yeah. So it's going to rain in Denmark tomorrow. They have things and that try to enter the complexity of the world into their products. Normally, for us, this is not the way we do it. We actually resolve and go back to the Laserman solution, right? I could have made this graph at one point, right? Saying there's a correlation apparently, or there's in the human factor, the way we're thinking. So US spending on science, space, and technology, and suicide by hanging, strangulation, and suffocation. So they're moving in the same way, but that's because you can always find another graph to put on top of a graph, and so it looks like there's a similar pattern, that they're connected. These are absolutely not connected in any way. It's just that when you have two data sets and you put them on top of each other, sometimes it looks like it makes sense. But for us as humans, because we want to spend as little brain power as possible, we say, damn, it looks like there's a correlation here. Or we don't necessarily stop to think about it. So that's the bad news, right? Saying our brains are not really equipped very well to do what we're doing. That's really sucks. But we actually can get some help, right? Because what is also out there is, and this is one of the shifts that we see now, it's the price of cloud and machine learning has actually dropped to a level where we can all play. So by exporting our data to the cloud and having machine learning algorithms look at patterns in the data instead of trying to think up the patterns ourselves, we are actually enabling pattern understanding on a completely different level than we're used to. And at a cost that is a fragment of the cost in relation to what it used to be. Right? We have a PhD in machine learning at our office. It sounds really sexy, but the fun thing is that when he started doing his PhD, he finished, I think, in 2002. It was a strictly theoretical subject matter. The only career choice he had at that given point was teaching at university. Right? That was kind of his options. Either you teach or you're unemployed. That was kind of it. So it wasn't like a really big thing. but now with the so a lot of the theoretical things that were there that they were teaching, so language recognition and pattern recognition is actually something that has the algorithms have Actually, a lot of that has been developed in the 60s and 70s. We never just didn't have the computational power to use it for anything. So it was, like I said, a theoretical subject matter. But now we reached the point where this data can actually be activated. So it means that we can actually do both prediction and go in and start doing proaction, because by using the cloud with our data, we are actually able to start going in and doing predictions. And because we're all predictable, it's really easy doing predictions based on us. And we had the huge pleasure of winning the Golden Punch Card at Super Week this year, because we have developed a tool that predicts with a high certainty the next page you're going to see on any given website you're at. Right? So when you go start doing sequences, we will be able to predict with a high certainty what is the next page that you're going to go to. That means that we can increase, we can start preloading the page so you get a better experience, and that's fine. So, but the next thing, taking that same thing, saying if we can predict the next page you're going to see, we can also predict whether you're going to convert or not. Right? So you've seen 5 pages on our website. Sorry, Danny, you have a pattern that says you're never going to buy anything. Right? So what we can do is we can start grouping people saying Danny's never going to buy anything, so we don't have to do remarketing for him. So we can actually be proactive, saying let's exclude him from our segment. Peter has also been on our website. He has a pattern saying he has already bought. So we don't have to spend any energy on converting Peter. We just have to maybe kindle him a bit to make him happy and make sure that he comes back. But we don't have to spend any real effort. The rest of you guys, you might buy something, you might not. Let's spend the marketing bucks on you, because we might be able to sway you to something. Does that make sense? So instead of just focusing the same on everybody, we can actually start understanding users. But it isn't just limited to that. It's also saying, so we're taking this data outside the analytics space, and this is something we haven't predicted. So we're doing projects now with road services in Denmark to predict where the next accident is going to happen based on weather and day of the month and all type of factors. But in reality, that is one of the things that you can do that a lot of other people can't do if you start working with it. You have a talent for working with imperfect data. Because if there's one thing we know about analytic data, is that basically it sucks. Right? It's not really a good data set in most situations. If you hand over your analytics data set to the BI people, they will most likely cry. Because it's not good data, but we have learned how to work with this data, and with the help of the algorithms, we can actually make something happen. So this is my prediction of saying this is where our work will be going. We will be enabling the machines to understand the data and come up with recommendations, and actually be guardians of the data quality. Because the key thing for the machine to do anything is that it needs as good data as possible. Right? So we need to be the people who make sure that the data that the algorithms work with is good enough. And then we need to be there to vet them and think and add insights on top of the ideas that they come up with, or the recommendations. Now this is all good, right? So we are now, as a team, capable of predicting the future. It's good news. So because it's based on data, there's also a flip side to this. Because what we see is already that if you're predictable and your mind is lazy, then very often we're in a situation where we live our life like water, right? We take the path of least resistance. So we go through the things where we have to think the least. And that gives us a problem in the sense that recommendation engines. On one hand, we enable it because we know what people want. On the other hand, they're a challenge, because what happens if everybody reads the same thing? It becomes boring. We are all going to be the same, so by simply using these recommendations engines, we're actually narrowing the scope of humanity and our conversations. If we as a team in here basically said, we've read the same 5 books, we've taken the same 3 courses, we watched the same 3 things on Netflix, Would it be fun spending time together? Not really. Would we be able to provide anything new for each other? Not really. So by doing what we're doing and taking it this way with recommendations and kind of helping people through the day to help them think less, we're actually we're also at the same time not doing them a favor, because we're actually making them more like everybody else. So who really wants to be ordinary? No, right? So I used this as an example a couple of years back, and you can consider with yourself. So I had the philosophical question I asked people saying, so if I gave you a manual to life, you had to follow this strictly every day of your life. If you follow this book, you would never have any trouble. It will all be okay. Would you want the book, and would you follow it? No, because one of the things that's what most people, or all people said. Nobody actually wanted the book, because what we want is free will. But guys, is this free will? It's kind of guided free will, right? You're free to choose from the things I recommend you. Right? So in that way, we're kind of limiting free will. It sounds really depressing. I said it was the flip side of the coin, right? And it's not just, well, it's us doing it and the industry that we're in doing it. So we kind of have a responsibility. Doug?
The cynic can be suggest that there is a degree of misappropriation of prediction and machine learning in these recommendation algorithms. There will be a weighting towards those popular shows that are actually more likely to make money for Facebook, Amazon, definitely Netflix, and so on and so forth. So rather than using this amazing technology for their gain, do you agree that they should be using this technology to give us, the consumer, more what we actually want, rather than what they want us to consume?
So if there was a button down here saying on Amazon, if you want to be unique, click here if you want to read something nobody else is reading. It's like, ooh, that's a sexy button.
I know, more like,
but it is.
I'm thinking more like Amazon being honest and saying, this is the stuff that you've seen in the past, so this is other stuff that is like what you've seen, but you haven't yet seen.
Yeah.
So aiding the discovery of stuff it knows that I like, without forcing me down the route that makes me see stuff that everybody else has liked.
Yeah.
So being more honest with my actual intent and preference.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to interpret it, or a good way to think it. But very often, again, it's the lazy man solutions. They will look at where is our profit margin highest, and we will kindly guide you in that direction. Mm-hmm. And this is good for you, son. You go over there. Right? So, key problem to this saying, okay, so right now we are working actively on everybody else having the guided manual to life. So, where are memories made? Do you really remember how you got home from work yesterday? Was it a strong memory you have? When you think back on your memories and your experiences, it's kind of the things that sticks out, where we break the pattern, where we do something else, something goes and going against the grind, where we pick up the book and we never expected and it really surprises us, right? So it's breaking the pattern that can really give us something extra as humans. And going through my grave saying, I lived a really ordinary life. I followed the flock through the meadow and just went to the same place as everybody else. Is that the difference we want to make at the end of the day? So, call it philosophical, but I think this is a challenge that we have to face, and we actually have to rethink sometimes what we do with our lives. So, break the pattern, do something different. This is something I've bored my staff with, senseless. And in reality, I still think it's relevant saying time is not something you have, it's something you take. Right? Nobody's going to come and give you time saying, oh, hey, you look really stressed today, Samantha. Why don't you take the day off and have a nice experience and I'll do your job? Not really likely that is going to happen in our work. And then, so actually, we have to take control of the time we have. We only have the life we have. And if we just decide, I'll just read the things, I'm going to see the things on Netflix that Netflix recommends, I'm going to do the same thing as everybody else, it's not really that great. So to end things up, I'm going to say, meet Mr. Fantastic. I don't know how many, now this is the UK, so I'm like out on a limb here because you actually believe in pigeon as sport. I can see you're really into it, all of you. So Mr. Fantastic here is, in reality, what we are trying to breed in relations to customers and everybody else. Because Mr. Fantastic, besides the really cool name, is the most expensive pigeon ever sold, ever traded. How much can you get for a, it's not that big in real life. So how much can you get for a pigeon? And then how do you measure it? You can see that it's kind of not your average street pigeon, it's more streamlined, and it's probably a damn good flyer and stuff. But, so how do you measure the quality of a pigeon? On its predictability. How good is it to go straight home? And then how fast it is, of course. But Mr. Fantastic was sold, I think last year, for the discreet amount of €500,000. Yeah, so maybe we should be training pigeons, but that's another story.
And you know how we taste it?
Yeah. but so the interesting thing is that Mr. Fantastic never raced again, because it's not like horse races where you can buy it and it will race and you will win your €500,000 back. So when you buy Mr. Fantastic, why do you buy him?
Breeding. To dissect his brain?
Breeding, yeah. Exactly, you want more Mr. Fantastic, right? You want more predictable people or more predictable pigeon out there that you can sell because they're so damn predictable. So let this be your, I don't know, warning, consideration, saying, so use it as a symbol. The next time you see a pigeon, stop yourself saying, what the fuck am I doing right now?